Hey, yeah, figured I'd drop in.
Hey there, Amy.
Hello. Yeah, we are going to be tracking towards being able to do a hybrid meeting for Monday of KubeCon. So,
Nice.
yeah, I will send out details and all of that because it doesn't sound like anybody's going to be dropping into this meeting. Yes, there was no agenda. So,
Yeah, we often have no agenda and then we turn into something by accident.
I know it's like all kinds of like wild and craziness. So, yeah.
That's our way to rolling.
Yeah. Nope,
Cool.
that sounds fine.
I'll note it down here that we're going to have that.
Oh, I've
Let's
got the
see.
HackMD up. Yeah, I can give you
You
like
do?
actual
Okay.
details in here. Yeah, I can put in proper details.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, more details to come on that one, but and virtual. There. We'll figure
Oh,
out like details in the like room and all of that. I'm not gonna try to do like AV in the room. I figured it'd just be more of a conversation for folks, but we can certainly change that. Like right now, I just have like a Polycon coming in, and again, we can certainly change that.
okay.
Like
And for a couple hours.
right, exactly. Like the and we're I'm just gonna limit it to like 2 hours to be able to give folks a chance to be able to talk about things they might not normally get to.
Cool. I'll put that on my calendar.
Okay. I mean, there will be calendar invites. There will be all the things. Um, yeah, I'm thinking I should probably ask the rest of the group about whether or not like being able to have like slides is an important thing.
That is a good question.
Exactly. I'm kind of like the most of the time we tend to be able just like, hey, here's what's going on. Um, but happy to be able to kind of recalibrate around that.
Yeah, Sajay, the part you're missing is Amy's got the setup, at least a room booked for us for a couple hours at KubeCon, and we're deciding
What should that
what
look
things we
like?
might need. Yeah.
I know, right? It might just be an extra special edition of like the dev call where we have nothing to actually talk about, but then we really do have things to talk about.
That's awesome. I don't know. Will it be helpful for people who are virtual or?
Yes, we are
Okay.
definitely going to be able to have a virtual piece in there as well. Yeah, my question right now is, do you want to be able to have like right now I just have a Polycom set up so people can like, call in like, Zoom wise, but I'm perfectly capable of being able to put in like audio visual. Um,
I think if you get, I think Phil and folks like that Brandon, will you be there as well?
I'll be virtual. We'll have, I think Phil's going to be there. I think other people might be there, but I won't.
Even if there are two people, it would be good, right?
okay, so we should basically I should like transition it to pretty much exactly what we did for Seattle last year.
I think that would.
Okay,
I don't know much about it, but I'm guessing it's.
It seemed to work pretty well in Seattle.
Okay, let me go back to that team and let them know that like hey look, I talked with the team and we've got some different things to do. Okay.
I'm just wondering for the Polycom for Zoom, I guess with Zoom, you can do the dial-in number.
Right, you can do the dial-in number, but like it's going to be challenging to be able to kind of let folks like participate. So that is a fair question. Okay.
And hopefully it's not too crazy. It's
Nope.
KubeCon, so it's definitely going to be crazy in general, but
Yes.
see how many of OCI folks actually show up there. I think they're going to be a handful. Sajay, are you going to be on site?
Virtual.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I will drop that in here. That's all I had today.
How do you get the information to where do we join? Like,
yes, we will send out invites and all of that. We'll put it on the OCI dev calendar.
oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's all we had. I will drop then.
We didn't have
I
any.
think,
Yeah, we don't have any agenda items on the call also.
That's okay.
yeah, no agenda for us. I figured, Sajay, since you're here, you got the RC2 sitting there where you wanted to roll out.
Yeah, I'll wait till Monday morning time, UTC 1400 or something like that. Same
Yeah.
as last time.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike is here. Maybe you can ask him
Yep.
if it's going to be. Mike, are you going to be in QCon, like physically or?
Yes, I'll be there.
Okay. So there you go. You at least have two people now.
Super. Book your travel to be able to come in for a meeting early on Monday. There. We're going to do an OCI
Okay.
meeting.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't conflict with the Kubernetes community meeting, I think I'm.
This is 2 hours. I think you should be able to make this one work. Hopefully. But I will
Hopefully.
double check.
Yeah, I believe they submitted me and Mernal Patel for, doing a CRI, expert panel or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So, but yeah, it would be nice to get together.
Yeah, no. Trying to be able to
Just
track
got
through like kind of a shorter version of what we did in Seattle. And you have a month to be able to make a not agenda.
A shorter version. Oh no.
2 hours. We just get 2 hours. That's all.
Oh, just 2 hours.
Just 2 hours.
Who's going to
Yeah.
put together the? Do you have somebody volunteering yet for
I do
putting
not have someone
together the
putting together
schedule?
the agenda yet, but if you'd like to be volunteered,
No.
have you just been voluntold?
I've got 5 sessions.
No. Realistically, like my hope is that we actually get some roadmap discussions. We get some
Yeah.
planning in place for what we're looking for the next 6 months.
Right.
We could, if there's something like really tangly that we need to sit down and work out, also fair.
Yeah. I mean, first item I'd put on there is an update on what has happened with the work group on artifacts and follow through. Right. We obviously need to get it from being a release candidate to being a GA, and that requires the applying of the new specifications at the various clients and servers, that the registries that are required.
Awesome. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna send out an email to the group, letting them know, like, hey,
Hey,
look,
Ren.
we've got a space in here. And then from there, you all can respond on that email. I will put out a call for like what do you want to talk about, and I've got that written down for like the update on artifacts, how to move to GA. Like, how do we do this anyways? Cool. So yeah, we get a whole month to be able to plan. It's gonna be fun. Okay.
Who's going to
Other-
push that registry PR?
All right, Brandon, I will pass it back to you there for the not agenda.
Oh, I'm the official, not an agenda person. Okay. I am good at that part. Let's see. So other than the RC2 thing we've got going out, I know I wanted to work on those pictures. Sajay, I know you have been working on those on your PR, trying to get those pictures looking nice with all the links going to the right place. And then I came through and said, actually, changing our mind on how all those things should look.
Oh,
Well,
My goal was to touch less and make sure that they look consistent, and then we can incrementally kind of like change it. Was my hope, at least to get the docs generated properly. Right now, the docs don't even include that, so that's why.
yeah. And that's why I went along with you've got my approval for now, and let's see if we can get this merged and I'll throw more craziness in there later on. See if I can do this.
Brandon, you said release candidate 2. You got some kind of schedule here or something you're thinking about?
No, we've already, the vote's already open for it.
Just to update, Mike, I missed the change for subject rename. So what happened is when you took the hash, the tree did not include that one change.
So that's just around that part. Okay.
Right. It's just kind of pulling that in, and I spoke to Vincent. Vincent said, just go.
I saw that was going through. That was whoops.
That's it.
I didn't get a chance to read the image spec side. Yeah. Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learned it the hard way.
I did my own oops on that whole thing after it went out. I was like, how did we all miss this? Every one of us.
It
I
went
was
2 days
heads
before.
down on the PRs on distribution.
Right. It happened 2 days before. So I got the tree just 2 days earlier, and this commit went in. And you know how the merge tree looks like? It looks fine because it's merged on top, but when you actually look at the tree, it's not there. So I'm like, oh God.
You have to actually check out that one commit and then see what the tree looks like from there. Yeah. So this is the one that I'll say get it merged as we have it now, but I do want to at least at some point figure out a better way to making this look. And the logic for why I want to make it look better is we've got the image index, which can point to itself. It can point to the image. This should actually be an arrow pointing this way from there to there. But the reason you have this arrow going up is because we got the subject, and the subject from either the image or the artifact can go to any manifest. And so it gets really awkward to draw all these lines all over the place for some of these things. The thought process I've got is, does it make sense to put a box above these boxes of saying, okay, all three of these at top are a manifest. These two things at the bottom are blobs, and then put the pointers up to that top box.
Do you want to just do another picture so that this is how the tree looks for image manifest, and this is for artifact manifest? I'm okay either way. I mean, it's just about conveying the correct directional links, right?
I got the feeling this was more than, this was like someone trying to understand, as like a registry maintainer or something like that, how all these objects relate to each other, if they're making some kind of entity relationship database or something like that. So I feel like this is important for their use cases, but some of these get a little awkward for that. For example, an artifact can point to an image index with the subject field. It can also point to itself. It can also point to the image manifest, but it can't point to all three of those at once.
Right. So it doesn't have the has a kind of connotation.
Yeah. Yeah. Each one of these things are saying, hey, you can have 0, 1 of these, you can have 0, 1 of these, you can have 0, 1 of these, but you can't have one of all three. And there's no grouping of that kind of stuff. And so I'm leaning toward actually sitting down, trying to make a different picture. I just figured I would mention that that's going through my head in case people have ways they'd like to see things drawn differently.
Agreed. Doesn't quite fit.
We got complicated. It was very simple and pretty when it was just an index and an image and 2 things under it.
Yeah, you're going
So
to
that-
need to make, I imagine you'll need to make those boxes that have fields, and those fields would then have, pointers and things like that.
Yeah, I don't know what a pointer is going to look like coming from like the image manifest up to the parent manifest. I'll see what this thing does with it, because they've got the little dot language, whatever this thing is. There's a definition for that. And so I can start grouping these things. I just don't know what it looks like when I start drawing arrows from a subgroup to the parent group. We'll figure that out. That was one of the big things on my list. And I knew I still owed that to Sajay. Any other big things that people have they need to be working on?
I need to update the tests for the artifact schema, as well as need one more. So there was a PR that on the example of the artifact MD was invalid JSON that was merged today. My understanding was that those tests should catch those kind of invalid examples, because I know that it runs through the example files and the MD files and looking for examples. I just need to verify whether once the schema tests in, is those kind of things are also caught. So a little bit, there's an action item on me.
Didn't realize they actually checked that level of the specs.
You could talk to Ben. I think Vince put together that original schema bucket.
Yeah, I'll tag him once I get that updated and fixed.
It's fascinating the number of things I discover that we do in our project Because if you don't go down all the subfolders all the time, you're like, oh, it's just the Go spec, just this one markdown file, and then you realize there's all these other.
It may also be that we don't need that schema validation. So you definitely talked to Vince. I mean, there was a lot of excitement and goals for it originally, and then the reality of it wasn't what they expected. So Vince should have a really good conversation to provide you.
The one positive thing I like about that schema validator is if the examples are broken, it'll actually catch it. So if somebody's missing something small and they make a PR, and it runs through the PR tests also. So it just gives a sanity check in some way. But it is an overhead to maintain. You're right about that.
Yeah, we went a different direction in the distribution API.
Yeah, and distribution itself needs to get updated with our own validation. It's not compliance. What do we call it over there?
Conformance.
Conformance. Yeah, we need to get that updated as well. Clearly, I have too many tabs.
Too many tabs is like too many emails or Slack messages. It's just like I can't keep up.
Well, the funny thing is I use one tab. And so I'll put all the tabs for a meeting in one place.
Yeah.
But then during the meeting, I just constantly open tabs and then I just close the whole bunch. I never go through and clean the whole thing out.
Yeah. If you don't do it right away, it ain't gonna happen. And then you end up with 2 months later. Oh no.
During the next meeting, I'm sitting there like, why on earth do I have all these things open?
I don't remember.
That looks like an interesting topic over there that I never went back to revisit.
Yep.
And we don't have Lockie here, but I know he's also worked on the blog post for us that I should probably be helping out with too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess it needed a couple more examples or something. And
I think
we're bad. I think I put in there that we need more examples, and that I didn't mean for it to stop the production or getting the blog post out. Maybe just another iteration or something is needed.
I think you and I were on similar things where we gave input, we didn't want to stop anything, and it all stopped.
Yeah. So we probably just need to talk to Lottie about it. Or maybe highlight, hey, this is great. Ship it. add this section later, or just promise it for the next blog, right?
Yeah, send it.
Send it.
I should ask, since we have people here for this, I was going through and cleaning up some of the working group stuff. We already archived the working group repo, so that was good. I think Lockie knocked that one out. I started going through the OCI playground. And I should probably pull this up on a tab. Another tab, another day. And there is a method to me asking this question right now.
Oh.
Which is, since Sajay is here, any idea what's going on with the ORAS stuff over here in the playground?
Yes. So in the last call, I think we were trying to get a CLI out that would work with OCI distribution here because the spec was not merged. And I think Monday onwards, once the spec files are updated, we could potentially, it's fine to archive these. I just need some time before KubeCon to maybe just keep the demos around. The distribution one has a hacked implementation for showing that end-to-end with the new path and things like that. So
I held off on distribution. I went to a bunch of the other ones. I don't know if we did anything with Go Container Registry, but yeah, anything people are still working on, I want to hold off archiving just in case.
Yeah. So ORAS and Go possibly, I'll work with Shuei, who's on the ORAS maintainer, who can kind of like maybe close this. once he's done with it. But I know he's working on these two.
Yeah, somebody did ORS Go already, and it wasn't me.
Yeah, no, their team is, they've decided to move everything to OCI. There was a
Taurus.
Yeah.
That's where it kind of got my attention. I was like, this was for the working group on Proposal E. We've already merged it in, so shouldn't this just be
No, they have
person repo?
they have a bunch of like implementations on how to do recursive copy and things like that. So it's basically the library implementing it to use the artifact manifest. The other thing is the tag fallback is not implemented, so they need to get that one as well. So this was a place to kind of start and just make the PRs directly into ORS from here. So, but given that that's resolved, I think this will go away in the next week or two.
Okay.
I'll take care of it. I mean, this is my headache.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I brought it up with you here. I was like, Sajay probably knows this better than anybody else.
So many intermingled projects. Yeah.
On the same line of thought here with ORS needing to move to the new specs, I wanted to point out that I saw Helm. It was using a feature that was in the OCI image specification to actually use an image with the different type, a Helm media type, which was allowed originally in the image spec.
Right.
And it looks like in November of last year, a PR went in. So just sort of heads up to you guys. It's not just the ORS guys that need to move up to the spec. We also have some legacy, abuse, like, if you will, or overuse of the image spec.
Right.
You're talking the config media type?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Helm uses config media type to kind of like push in the charts, and they released a version that uses that fully. So the good thing is that Helm actually under the covers uses ORS. So hopefully, if we can,
when we migrate them, we'll be able to migrate. That'll be okay.
But
So they've already got a process going forward.
Right. I kind of like spoke to the Helm maintainers to just make sure, hey, this is coming. Let's make sure that we start the conversation on this, because it's a major breaking change for them. Because ORS used to use Container D under the covers, but Container D doesn't have the support for like arbitrary manifest types and things like that. But either way, it will take time, right? Like moving the Helm community to after the registry implementations have happened.
Right. Yeah, I just thought I'd pile on since they were mentioning ORS.
Right.
Yeah. I got this morning, somebody was pointing me to an IBM document where we were showing people how to use IBM Container Registry to do Helm charts. And I was like, oh. And then I noticed that, yep, they're using an image manifest with an overloaded type.
Right.
Well, is that still what Helm is doing, or did Helm already move over to the artifact manifest?
No, Helm is doing the config media type right now.
Okay, so there's changing. Okay, just that one.
Yeah, they've been changing over time. Yes, exactly. And there's still examples out there. And and registry still doesn't flag if you use a different media type.
The big reason that they kept it for the same config media type was, I think, mostly from Docker Hub. And so I suspect they got away with changing it. Docker Hub probably put them on a whitelist, but Docker Hub itself, I saw Justin comment over on the
I don't know
thread over in ORS.
I don't know whether you can use the Helm CLI with Docker Hub. It works with most of the other registries, but Docker Hub is again a special case. Maybe they do.
They're still filtering. I
don't know. I just need to try out the Helm CLI. But this is a released version of Helm, so they've gone down that path as that's the only way to kind of store the charts besides the image.
Yeah, okay. I saw a comment from Justin said coming very soon when asked about getting that filter taken off on Hub. So I think we're close. That was 2 days ago, and he's been saying it's coming, but we'll see. Hopefully really soon means really soon.
Good stuff.
I'll keep an eye on the Helm side also, because I need to get them to move anyway, but it's going to be a slow process.
Yeah. It would probably help if we had some kind of migration path and in the places where we generally document this kind of stuff. Early adopters, they always feel the most pain. Not funny, sorry. Okay.
I didn't have anything else. I mean, if folks want to end early, you get back almost more than 30 minutes, 34 minutes approximately.
Cool.
Mike, if you
you
wanted
mentioned that she was already submitting to the day one a session.
That's what Amy mentioned, I think.
Okay, for 2 hours. All right.
Mike, I know you had comments earlier where I was saying, hey, you and I should get together and talk about some of your thoughts on other things you were thinking about doing with the artifact manifest, questions you had on some of our merges. If you want to chat about that, I'm happy to chat about those as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking for more performant patterns, right? Things like every time you have to make a connection, it can be expensive, right? Especially if it's not anonymous or you're running to a repo that's currently charging for connections. Hint, right? We have a lot of free users, stuff like that, right? And if you're adding a pull for an artifact or 3 different artifacts, possibly, those are going to be pretty expensive requests, because if you're a free user, you only have 100, right? If you're, I'm sorry, free anonymous. If you're a free user with Docker Hub, you only get 200 pulls. So if you wanted to have 5, containers on 5 pods, and you've got these artifacts, you can start to see the math, right? If you're going to do a cluster. So without having unlimited, full access to these hubs. So from that perspective and from a performance perspective, be able to run fast solutions, I was hoping that we would have at least one pattern where you could push with the index, right? Or pre-push your artifacts and then list them in the index. So then when the client goes to pull it, they would be able to see, oh, okay, I've got in this index these images for the platforms, and I've got these artifacts that I should pull down, right? And that will be referring to elements, right, or manifests or whatnot of the, in the images in that platform, right? Does that make sense? I know you I think you had the real purpose of using index wasn't so that you could have a full list of the artifacts, for caching purposes. I know, but I saw that as a potential, and I wanted to talk about that. Right. That's what
I think you're going back to proposal F. That's where you're going with some of that.
It might be, but still, we've already modified the support in index to be able to support other types.
Yeah.
It's in the spec.
Yeah, they had done in proposal F, you push an index, you can even push your original, and they had manifest list, but index in there as well. The original manifest, and then any artifacts on those manifest with other annotations. They had that in their proposal.
Right. But the action, what we pushed is a little different, right? Now you've got a list of manifests, and that can be either image or, right, artifact types.
Yeah, this was F, and I don't know if there's a good way to reconcile the two for the performance you're looking at. And the reason I say that is you're going to query a tag for the digest or whatever you're looking at. I guess the tag can point to the same digest and you can detect that. So you can
I was talking about literally I've requested an index manifest, right?
Yeah, but what you need to know is for any one of these things. So I pull down the manifest for 4FFC. You're going to query the registry no matter what, just using the API to say, I've got 4FFC, give me all the refers to that. and everything's got a subject, so you query the refers interface. If that doesn't
Right.
exist,
Yeah, and I'm not talking about the refers API. Maybe that's
Yeah.
not.
so assuming that doesn't exist, and you fall back to the tag, and that's where you're worried about is we're querying now a second tag, pulling that index that tag points to, that says here are all the things that point to for FFC, and so you've got that second index in there. Theoretically, that could point back to yourself, to your same index
And I
here.
wasn't even thinking about it from that context, right? I'm literally talking about when I push my index originally, right? I can add, if I want to, a list of artifacts.
Right.
And then on the client side, when I pull my index, right, to identify the platforms, I can also, once I pick my platform, I can also pull down all of the artifacts.
Are you looking
Instead
at
of just going to the platform image, is what I'm talking about.
Are you looking at a client-side optimization where you give it a tag, but when the push happens, we actually also push an updated index every time so that the refers will work independently. But when you pull the index, it's actually including the refers also. So that
Yeah, sort of. I wasn't meaning that you would update your index every time, but that would be a way to do it. If you wanted to manage the artifacts that are hosted inside of your index, then you could do it that way, Sanjay. Absolutely.
what
you're looking for, you're
Yeah.
looking for a merged index. You're not looking for the top level
That's
index
correct.
having the index that refers. You're looking for one merged index of both.
That's right. A different pattern. Yes.
Do you have any preference on it being on the server or on the client? I'm guessing you
Well, the
want.
client, it would be a client tooling that packaged up all of its artifacts when it pushed the index and included the artifacts in the index. Is what I'm talking about.
I see. So it's
It's a client side on the build that you're going to pre-build all of your your SBOMs and whatnot. And include
now I see a motivation why you wanted the artifact manifest called out in the index manifest. It makes perfect.
Yes.
All right, okay.
Now you know the rest of the story, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, right? Is why couldn't I push all my artifacts along with my index, right? When I push the index up.
Yeah, you could. I think at this point it doesn't.
Yeah, especially if you're just going to sign the platform images and they're going to already have their SBOMs. You would know what all your artifacts are up front if you wanted to package it up. Let's say it's a banking solution, right? And you don't want third parties adding SBOMs to it after the fact.
Yeah, I think that was publishers adding signatures also kind of like enables the scenario where you are the primary publisher, so everything is kind of bundled together.
Right. Yes, a bundle. Yes, exactly. Now,
Which is
I know
why
that it doesn't apply directly to the refers API or the pattern you guys were envisioning. I'm just saying that's a valid pattern today that you package it all up, right? All the contents.
What would that save you though? Because you still have to query for refers.
It would be performance.
But you still have to query for refers, right?
No,
Or are you saying this would block the query for refers?
You could literally pull the entire index down, right?
Yeah.
But if someone else has a signature, someone else has a different SBOM, something like that, they're not going to modify the original index, or are they?
They might decide to rebundle in some way. Like that's the way I want to.
Two models here, right? One model where it's a public image, right? A public index, and you're allowing for third parties to attach, right, artifacts to it. And another model is where it's a private repo with a private index, and you don't allow third parties to add anything to it, right?
Okay, but I'm writing a containerd runtime, and I need to query to see if this image is signed to allow it to be run or something like that.
Right.
So if I do that and I run into one of these images, does this tell me that I cannot query the refers interface for that? If it comes back and it says it's not signed with a key that I know, do I still fall back to query refers, or do I not?
I think
we don't really have that process today, but if you did, are you saying signed index or signed image?
Yes.
Okay. So if it was a signed index, then you've got to chicken egg problem, right?
Mhm.
You're going to have to trust. You would have to trust the built-in signatures for the right. You'd have to have
Yep.
a third-party reference to that somehow that says
Yep.
yes, this is a valid sign. But
Can't sign yourself.
can't sign yourself. Although I could argue that when you're pulling down that index, right, it's got a SHA, which is, somewhat secure, and you're pulling it from a log on, right? And you should be the only one that has access to your private repo, right? So it should be somewhat secure, right? Just the index.
The way Docker was doing this was they actually put the original manifest list within the new manifest list.
Fair.
Yeah. There was a concept of canonicalized portion of the manifest that it would sign. So something like almost like a header signature. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, a little
Thinking
iterative.
like in Toto style or whatever they got for the sign.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw the one to many on the index, and I was like, "Oh gosh, really? Okay."
Mhm.
I saw it. I didn't want to say anything, but yeah, I mean, today obviously that isn't the expectation. The index is it's a list of platforms, not a list of indexes. Typically,
Yeah. Part of the reason we shied away from the stuff Docker was doing was knowing that people get very attached to those digest. And so if you have the digest upstream that says I'm digest ABCD,
right?
and you pull it down to your environment and you want to add your own signature to it,
Yep.
People didn't want to change that digest. They wanted to be able to change the metadata without changing the digest.
Yeah, I understand that argument. Yep.
So that did a lot of the driving for that the standalone index that you query with a different API.
Right.
And that does go back to where I was looking at what do we get by doing this? If we start putting stuff in that original index, there are two challenges there. One is that you can't easily strip stuff out. So if someone on the original upstream says, here's the SBOM, and you have something internal that says, no, we're really the SBOM originator, there's no easy way to take out the original one that you might not like as much. It's kind of stuck there.
And by the way, Brandon, my answer on the how do you do this reference? I mean, you could pre-sign the contents with a this referenced artifact, right?
Yeah, but if you
contents, not the root,
not the digest of the index itself.
Not the digest of the index, but all of the contents you can. Which was why I was asking, what if the artifacts refers was nil, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a reason for that because that would be an artifact that's referencing myself, right? Was my argument.
Yeah, it's a way you could solve that, but I think it breaks so many other things. Just thinking through, because there are other use cases today that don't have a refers field. And so, or subject field, keep using the wrong language. There's stuff out there today that doesn't have a subject field right now that's in an index. And so you can always make an index right now with whatever you want in there. I almost feel like you need some kind of extra field in there to say this is a signature on the root of some kind. I don't know what that looks like, but some kind of extra notation.
Yeah, I mean, nil could be quotes nil, right? It doesn't have to be an actual nil, or it can be some self-referencing identifier.
Or a digest that doesn't have a SHA-256, but some kind of self or something like that.
You got it. Yep, that would work. Yep. That indicates it's a partial SHA, right? Only on the contents, not the actual index itself.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's very close to, I believe the initial, like it's an extension on proposal F, which is the partial digest, or like partially compute the portion of the manifest and then use that digest to sign it in some way. It requires a lot of client tooling, but doable.
Right. And isn't excluded by the specification as written. That's what that's why I was, I see opportunities here in where there's opportunity, some programmers are going to take advantage, right?
Yeah. The reason I was harping on the what value do you get out of this though is if I'm writing the client tooling that runs into this,
Yeah,
I feel like I'm still going to run that second query. I don't feel like I'm going to get that performance
because you want to
improvement
know if there's
because
any other artifacts as well, right? Yeah.
there might be a different artifact out there that takes priority over the one that was attached to the original image.
Well, there's an interest. What if I have two artifacts? Is there a prioritization of artifacts? They're referring to of the same type. They're referring to the same thing.
Do you want the newer SBOM? I think that was one of the comments I've seen from a lot of people is they want the newer data.
I'd want the one that I pushed, right? If I
Okay.
was,
So maybe I can share something. So from ACR side, I think this came back from ORAS, I believe, and unfortunately, ECR microbiome isn't here. So we discussed using the created field to kind of do the sorting. Because the specification kind of kept out the sorting thing, it kind of gave us a little bit of freedom. So that way,
if they created, who gets to say what the date is on the created?
The creator.
It's a created field inside the manifest. So
yeah, so the client can change that date.
So that way, the client does get some say on what needs to come about. And hopefully, tooling does the right thing.
I know Brandon probably has a lot to say about the created date.
Oh, I lie about it all the time, but it doesn't mean that you can't still use the field.
I've been watching Brandon's discussion on Twitter on this topic.
My lies are always well-intentioned lies.
See, and that's why if the client can control the created, it's okay. Like we can do whatever we want with it, right?
Do you trust the client?
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again, if you don't trust,
you don't trust the server, right?
That are associating new artifacts, if there's no level of trust on that,
correct,
then you might want a different model. You might want a model where the artifacts I trust are the ones that I push with my index that I have a digest for.
Right, and I think the default model for the registry is nobody trusts the content from the registry is just a content delivery mechanism. All verification happens on the client. So even if it's out of order, it's still up to the client to kind of decide if the signature is valid and within the SKU and all those kind of things. So
right, and the only thing that
signed,
the registry can control is whether or not it was authenticated and authorized by the client.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
When everything is signed, you put a lot of your trust in whoever had the key to do that signing, and if they were someone that you wanted to trust with that key. So if someone starts lying and they got that key, you just stop trusting that key.
It's too late by then.
Yeah.
But that's what it is today. So
yeah, that's interesting. So that would mean that a registry provider would have to strictly control the signers that are being associated. And then the distribution, you want to let the registry do the signing or not, right?
Right. Then distribution becomes almost like a security product in some way more than a content distribution. So
I think that's where we're headed, Sajay. That's
I didn't
want to say the next work group should be authentication, right? Authorization.
But I mean, I want that, but I feel like that's a separate problem.
Yeah.
You can try to lump them together, but I still think it's a separate problem.
I wasn't trying to lump them together. It just happened. Auth is hard. There's a reason why we punted it 6 years ago.
Oh, and I suffered so much after that.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's suffering because of it.
I have opened many of issues on registry maintainers that are not happy with me.
That's why I'm not a maintainer. I'm just a contributor.
I went slightly different directions in how I implement a lot of the stuff, and everybody's like, "Dang it, you read the spec instead of actually just doing what Docker did."
Jerk, you jerk. Yeah, I was a little surprised when we tightened up the spec in a few areas.
In terms of the working group output?
No. You didn't I don't think you did any tightening.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to
You did
figure out.
good.
What
You
did
did
we
good.
tighten?
No, I was talking about PRs that have gone in since the first 1.0
Oh, okay.
without a .1 requirement. Yeah, anyways. All right. No, we're good. So yeah, that was my main thing, was I was looking for a one connection fits all. I can pull everything down, that's been packaged up kind of scenario as well. Instead of requiring pull your image first and then pull your artifacts, or pull your artifacts first and then your image.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything we can do from OCI to say that someone can't do that.
Right.
So someone could take our spec and say, yeah, all that stuff is great. We're still going to do it a different way. And registries are going to allow that because there's nothing against the spec from what you're saying there.
Yep.
My hesitation on trying to formalize that is I'm still coming back to what's that extra value if we still support the refers. Because as long as you're still supporting the refers, you've still got that extra API call in there. And I don't think we're getting enough value add from packing it. I think the value add you get from packing it is you say when you see a pack thing, you just don't even try the refers.
Well, I mean, okay, so let's talk about the value then, right? When I use the refers to get a list of manifests, right? That's a list of SHAs. And if those SHAs are local, I don't have to actually pull those blobs. So depending on the size of the blobs, content, whatever it is, right? When I call the refers API, I may gain advantage if I've already pulled those artifacts down, right? If there's another artifact, I'll be able to weigh the value of one that was pre-built and already pulled over, right, one that's been added after the fact.
So are you saying that everything in the index you're going to pull at the beginning?
Yes.
Different platforms, different, all the SBOMs, all the signatures you're
I'm
going to
not
pull.
sure that I'm not sure that I want to go through the exercise of identifying which, refers are pointing to the platform I picked. Because it's not just that platform, it's also the rest of the tree, right?
I'm thinking of all the stuff I'm doing that are going to make you miserable if you go down that path.
It depends how many artifacts you're storing.
Oh, it's only one.
Do you intend to make it for me, right?
It's only one artifact, but it's a doozy. I pack all the HTTP traffic from all the requests during the build.
Well,
So
thank goodness I have lazy pull.
Yeah. Right?
Well, that's kind of lazy pull. Then with our lazy snapshotter, then that won't be so bad.
Yeah, and so if you do the lazy pull, you don't pull all the artifacts in advance, and then you query the refers, you've still got the second refers query, and then you've got the same manifest list as before. And so
you still have a reference
teasing.
to the SHA. You still have a file reference to the SHA. It just hasn't been loaded.
Yeah, I'm still teasing out the value add because the main value add I got from packing it was that when it's packed, you only have to pull the one index. And the downside of having to do the refers is you have a second API to pull a second index. And so if we still have to query refers, we're still making that second API call. Once we've gotten to that point of the second API call, they feel equivalent to me.
If you're going to run you're going to, on the same connection where you pull the manifests and check your layers, if that is also where you're going to have an async task that's doing an HTTP header for refers, then yeah, it should be very similar in performance on the same connection. Yes. I see that. Okay. I see where you're headed on that question. Then from that perspective, the only other question would be the trust factor, right? And what takes priority, the one that was, pushed by the actual owner of the image, or the SBOMs that were attached later. I'm sorry, the artifacts that were attached later.
Yeah, trust is going to have to come with signing. I think there's. Yeah,
but that means I need a signature on every artifact as well, and
which they're going that direction. They're looking at signed SBOMs.
I know, it sounds expensive. It sounds expensive to me to do it that way.
Well, the expensive part comes in that when you pull the SBOM, now you need to query the refers on the SBOM. And so now you're adding extra hops in there for each one of these things you pull down.
Yeah.
And there is a challenge of when you pull the index, you're going to pull the refers for the index, and then you pull your image manifest, and you're going to pull the refers for the image manifest. So,
Oh,
there
man.
are two. I was, glossing over that one, but there are two there.
Don't gloss over that. That sounds expensive. And once you start going that direction, right, I think that's when people are going to come back and balk a little bit and say, can I just push all these artifacts, in one set of blobs, right, later on. We'll see.
Yeah.
Can I zip these things up in one one master artifact, right?
So there's this nice format out there called the OCI image layout. No, wrong, not layer, layout. Zip that thing up. I'm a huge fan of this spec, this part of the spec. I think I'm like one of 3 people that are a huge fan of it. Because what I'll do is I'll take your image and all the other things in there with the image. I'll take the index, the various image manifest, all the refers to that image manifest, pull all those things into one OCI layout and have them all separated with different tags. So it works really nicely with the spec.
To me, this is the default scenario, right?
This is when you get down to the file system, which that's what you're going to need when you're on Containerd at least.
Yeah. Yep.
And when I'm going through lying about my date stamps on things, I like this as well. Makes it much faster to start mutating blobs.
Right. Did you put in here where the artifacts should be laid? And are we gonna talk? I don't know. I don't remember. Did your work group talk about how the artifacts relate to the to the root FS? Is there another directory or any way that you can access the artifacts right at runtime, or are they all only accessible through some third-party layout that the container runtimes will come up with?
I
think,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we didn't get into like the run C level. This was strictly looking at
Okay.
distribution and the different JSON formats and image spec.
From when we started implementing the cache, it was pretty much the OCI layout that we went with. It did pretty much everything to be able to store artifacts right next to it. So there is no, I mean, from a rootfs standpoint, no, we didn't think about it, and it's not. But from a storage and a tarring perspective, it is in the same model as the image layout.
Yeah, obviously, if there's a directory layer for the artifacts, right, based on this layout, then we can mount that as a volume, right, and provide access to it, to a container in a pod to be able to.
You might get a little recursive there because this layout is the same layout that your root FS is stored in.
That's why I asked if you made a modification to this. I didn't want to. I don't want to use this layout. I'm just saying, is it similar, or is it like a sibling, or you could use the same layout in a different directory, like artifacts, root artifacts.
Yeah, we didn't even get to the runtime spec part of it. I think there was an assumption that a lot of this just doesn't even apply at runtime. It's kind of a layer above that.
Probably. Right. I was more thinking about sidecar type containers in a pod, but I could also see somebody doing a system level container that might have some interest, or even outside of containers. You could see you might want to run an application that can check
one
content.
So one
these artifacts might not just be system level, right?
Right.
If you're getting,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you're getting to sidecars, that might just be a case for having an index with some kind of multiple things for the same platform, but some kind of annotation in there saying this is a sidecar of this other thing.
One use case that we, there's another project that we're kind of like tying these two together. In that, the goal is to possibly load signatures on as a sidecar and use this kind of an OCI layout, because they don't want to bring signatures from the registry. And those are private signatures, and the key also they don't want to bring it. So that for that, basically, it's the OCI layout that we chose. Like,
Okay.
we can tar this up somehow. And when the pod comes up, it can be mounted as, we basically call it like the referrer, the OCI referrer store is what we call it. And
Okay.
the OCI referrer store can have all these, but there is change on the runtime, or like there's change in the verifier, the signature verifier, to be able to go and look into this directory in some way, which is pretty much
Right.
the layout. It's a cache layout of the same format. So it's worked, and that's why I didn't have to kind of like raise that separately, but it is a sidecar signature loading scenario.
Okay.
It's like you said, unless we start implementing these things, you're not going to find out.
These are the things you're going to find out, right? Exactly. Okay, that's cool. How do I mount this? Where are we going to put these things? Okay. Yeah.
When you get into the runtime spec, though, you're reminding me of this old issue. It's been a while, where you're talking about different ways you can potentially inject metadata into the runtime, saying this is who you are. And
Bingo.
so I was throwing
Bingo.
the idea out of saying, let's just mount a file system under like /run/OCI metadata or something like that. And then
It makes a lot of sense. Then you'd have a common way across the tools, right?
Mhm.
It makes a lot of sense.
But yeah, we didn't touch runtime spec at all with this stuff, with the working group.
We assumed it would just work.
Well, I think the problems we were solving weren't getting runtime level. We weren't assuming the container image that was writing needed to know its own signature. We assumed that the thing that was going to run the container image was going to verify the signature before even sending it to the runtime.
Right. For that kind of artifact. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay.
But hey, there's always an opportunity to go back through some of these old issues and make some fun implementations.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Well, true
So I
to
guess
what I promised.
that's the summary of what I was wanting to talk to you about. You know, the opportunity to use index to cache things up, and the idea about self-referencing artifacts, right?
Yeah. And like I say, there's potentially could be done. I think we want to do it a little bit differently than just leaving an empty field in there.
That's
so,
yeah. 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 Anything that indicates that this is a this reference is what I was looking for. Right.
Yeah. But like I say, clients can do that today if they want to. But for us to do it on OCI, I'm working through all the mental hoops and logistics in there of how do I, writing a client interface in there, handle it when I see that, and knowing there's still the option for a registry to implement refers.
Yeah, I think it's fine to say maybe later when we once we do some detailed things, when we finally have an absolute need for it, then we can. Okay.
Well, we didn't call this GA yet because we want to see some registries actually run into some of these challenges, see what happens. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to say, let's actually implement this stuff in a registry and see what the performance looks like.
That's right. And that's why when I put on Laxy's blog, I said, how about some performance numbers? I didn't mean in this blog. I meant,
A huge pushback we got from Docker was, please don't hit the tag listing API, knowing how slow that was for all the stuff. And so we distinctly said, okay, let's use a well-known tag. We'll accept the race conditions that generates us, just knowing that we can query that manifest for that index directly without having to go through the tag listing. And so I think there were some efforts to try to make the performance a little better in this. But real world, we still want to see it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Until you've shown that, yes, doing the second connection is the big problem But if I keep the connection and I just run a refers afterwards or while I'm bringing them down, then that's not going to be that big a problem, except for the registry itself.
Yeah. I mean, the registry is going to get hit multiple times. They're going to run into that rate limit a little bit quicker. Don't know how we fix that, but there's something else.
Curious about you've been talking about connections. Are we there are two parts here, right? Like there's the connection and there's the actual HTTP request. Is the concern on the number of connections, or is it the concern on the number of HTTP requests? Because my understanding is for Docker, you can still use the same connection underneath, but it'll do multiple requests, and they rate limit by the number of requests, right?
Yeah, they're going to rate limit on the number of hits to the manifest API, manifest get API.
Yeah,
And
I was really dual using it, CJ. Yeah, each poll or even of a manifest.
Each manifest get.
Each manifest get is going to be a count tick.
So
I would imagine each refers request will be a tick.
Right.
I don't know. They may not opt to rate limit that one, just knowing that their goal was to rate limit the number of images that you're pulling, and they use manifest as a substitute for blobs.
That could be. But an artifact is an image. You'd not be surprised if they didn't, ding you for each artifact.
Yeah, once you pull down the artifact itself.
We've got the 100, 200 limit issue, right? If you're not unlimited, and then the connection thing is something else entirely, which is it's expensive.
Right.
You're looking at 70 milliseconds on average to make a connection.
Yeah,
SSL. Yeah, because there's multiple round trips there. Go
it's
itself does.
It's a lot of traffic to make a connection.
Go itself pulls those for you out of the box, I think. If you have the HTTP client, you reuse that same client interface. So I wonder how many tools make use of that.
Depends on the tool, right?
Yeah.
If you keep your login and it's not requiring a new connection, then it's pretty clean. If you're not keeping your login because you're in a cloud environment, hint, right, where you can't have just one login, yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, we ran over the clock with zero agenda. Call that a win.
These are the best.
These are the best.
Right.
All right. Thanks for a great conversation, gentlemen.
Sure. Cheers.
Till next week.